Okay, what I'm working on today is a 2011 Ram 1500. It's got 178,795 on the clock. We've got several codes stored. Generator field control circuit, generator voltage sense circuit, and it got an implausible left wheel distance signal received. That's not going to have anything to do with the charging problem. At least I don't think it should. But we got the P06222 and P063A. We do have a battery light coming on. It alternates between that and I think the door jar light. The battery was stone dead when it came in here, so I've already replaced the battery. I tried to charge it up, but it wouldn't take a charge. Put a new battery in it, replaced the negative battery terminal, got rid of the crappy one back there, and it already has a replacement alternator on it, so I'm going to have to get that cover off to get down to wiring to see what is actually wrong with this thing. Like we were talking about earlier, we got a no charge condition, new battery terminals, we got a replacement alternator on there, and something doesn't look right here. You hear that noise? And that's the alternator charging, not charging. So we got something going on here that ain't quite right. And what's probably going on, I'll have to do a drag test on those terminals, make sure they're okay. So we probably got a dry silicone seal up here that just needs to be lubed up to plug it all the way up. And this latch may not have been brought all the way up in order to get it to release properly or get it to lock on properly. We get some other stuff to see what's going on. This is a pretty common test that I do. I just take a terminal that I keep around and I place it squarely in the mating terminal and make sure that it has a reasonable amount of resistance. It's not just sloppy and not making any connections. So that seems to be okay. And the next thing I'm going to do is make sure this red piece is pulled all the way back, and it seems to be. It's locked right there. So my guess is this silicone gasket in here is probably dried out and or rolled. Oh yeah, it's a mess in there. Let me see if I can get that thing out and cleaned up and straightened up and all that good stuff. Might have to pop this white cap off. Well, it doesn't look all that bad, but it sure is dry and it was rolled up some, so we're going to lube that up and put it back in. And some of y'all may think this is sacrilege, but I'm using a Motorcraft electrical grease on this thing to make it slide together. And just put a goodly amount around the outside edges. Now I've got to see about getting it back down in there and lined up correctly. The little tabs are supposed to be sticking out the back, and that one started to be lined up. That one's looking good, so hopefully I can just push them on down in there and they'll be okay. this piece locked back down in there. Now let's see if it'll go on there. Whoops. Let me look down in there, make sure there's nothing down in there restricting anything. Nope, looks good. That is just not working out that good, is it? I'm going to try grabbing those. Try grabbing these little tabs right there and seeing about pulling them through. That one came through. I'll try this one. That one came through. Go around the edges again. See if we can get them all in there good. Got a feeling something just halfway rolled there. If I don't get it fixed soon, I'll just put another connector on there. That seemed to go on there pretty good that time. Maybe not. So what's keeping that thing from moving? See if that'll latch now. Yep, it's on there now. So I guess the trick was to move this down first, get it to snap and click. Oops, that shouldn't have come up quite that easy. Let's see, I squeeze on it. Yeah. See, that's all the way down, so we're going to have to put another terminal or connector body on there. Either that or the latch back here is broke. So let me get a new one, see how it fits and latches, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and replace this connector here and catch it all on video with any luck. And I'm going to move this around a little bit more so maybe we'll get a better angle or a different angle. But the problem we have is this latch won't stick on there. The problem we have is this latch doesn't retain the connector to the alternator. It keeps backing off and then the alternator stops charging. And in a minute I'm going to get enough stuff done, moved here, to where I can get in here and do this job. Hopefully that'll give us enough light to do this. But what I got to start with is I got to get this tape off of here and open this loom up so I can splice the new wires in. And if you can't find the edge, you get in here along the seam of the split loom and you just run along in there and cut it all out. see about getting the split loom off there, and then finish unwrapping this tape. Hopefully. May have to rip it out too, cut it out. Hopefully not. There, now we're all opened up. And what we have to do now is decide which wire goes where. And we are matching them up. So this wire here will be my brown wire. Looks like a brown or a gray wire. We'll figure that out in a little bit. And I'm going to extend this just a little bit so we got some room to work, because I think that thing is a little bit too tight to start with. Trying to strip this wire back real quick. Let's see about crimping it in place. I doubt that you can see that because I can just barely see it. In fact, I can't even see it good enough to do it. Let me try a different angle here with the light. That worked a little bit better. Let's see if I can get a good crimp on it. There we go. Slide that back out the way a little bit. We'll line this other one up to be cut. And I like to stagger my joints. So I'm going to cut that red wire right about there. Takes the bad plug all the way off. Now I always go back and take just a little nib off there, and that accounts for the length of the splicing connector. Try and get this other wire spliced in there. tricks is to make sure you don't have the opposing wire stuck in there in between the cutting jaws, and when you crimp one wire you cut the other one. That's always a bad deal. Ask me how I know. Now we have two choices. We can either get a new piece of split loom and replace this one with that, or I think this will be long enough. We'll slide it back in there, lock it in place with tape, and then we'll be good to go. That's got us most of the way there. Don't really like working with a new roll of tape. Start your tape around your two wires, or however many you got. You wrap it around a couple of times, and you stop and bring your loom back over it. The tape will be in between your split and your split loom. And we'll just wrap that in there, and I'll bring it a little bit past that to give a little bit of stability to it. Don't want to bring it too far though, because if you squeeze this together you could wind up damaging the terminals in there. Puts too much side tension on them. Now we're going to put this lock back up. It got latched in there with me messing around with it. Got a nice little click and another little click, and that's not coming off now. I guess you could force it off if you wanted to, but it's not going to come off now. And with any luck, we should be able to have it charging. And you can hear the alternator and see that it's charging. The battery's down just a little bit from having the key on so long when I was doing some taping earlier. Or doing some recording earlier, I should say, get the right term going. And I can go here and I can wiggle this, and you don't hear me changing anything. The tone sounds the same, so it's not having any effect on the alternator. So all I got to do now is put the covers back on and get this aftermarket breather assembly back on there. I don't like those. They never fit right. But I'll get all that done in just a few minutes, and then I got to come back and probably work on an ABS problem and a power window problem on this thing, because if you see, the power window switches are broken and the window's down. I actually ran it down with the scan tool, and I would expect this plausibility for the left wheel speed distance is going to come back too, but we'll just have to clear codes and see what comes back. Let's see, erase codes. And it won't let me do it because it's running. Stupid Chryslers. Now we're going to try erasing the codes again. Ignition on, engine off. Says it's been removed. Now let's check codes again and see what comes back. No fault codes, but I'm sure that when I drive it around it's going to have some other codes, because when we look under chassis, anti-lock brakes, and read codes, there is a code for the left rear wheel speed sensor, and it says it's active, so the code will come back. That other code will come back sooner or later, so I'm going to have to be doing that later this afternoon if I get the approval from the customer. And something that could be of interest to you, and I'll just do it while I'm here. Got that light reflecting. Go under doors, left door, active test, and window control. We don't care about seeing data, but we have the ability, instead of using the switch that's no good, we have the ability to use the scan tool, and we're going to go with up for 5 seconds. That's going to be F4, and the window goes up. I'm going to roll it back down because I don't want to have to deal with the hot vehicle. So that tells me all the wiring is okay. It's just broken switches from people being too rough with them. Had the same thing going on with the passenger window, and I went ahead and rolled it down earlier too. But we got to get the approval on that, and then we'll replace that too. For the time being, Sparky's out.